The Dust Weaver. Leo was 12, and for 12 years he had meticulously checked under his bed every night. It was a ritual, a silent pact he made with himself to ensure the shadows held no surprises. But lately, the ritual felt less like a comfort and more like a desperate gamble. It started subtly. A fleeting glimpse of something darker than a shadow in his peripheral vision. A faint rustle that wasn't the wind or the settling of the house. And the dust bunnies, oh, the dust bunnies. His mother, a meticulous cleaner, swore she'd vacuumed yesterday. Yet every morning, monstrous, matted clumps of dust and forgotten things would appear under his bed. Far more than any normal accumulation. They seemed to breathe. One night, the rustling grew bolder. Leo huddled under his covers, held his breath. He heard it clearly now. A slow, deliberate scrape against the wooden floorboards directly beneath his mattress. It was too soft for an animal. Too rhythmic for a settling house. It was deliberate. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced him. He tried to tell himself it was just his imagination, a branch tapping against the window. Anything but the truth. But the truth was there. A presence in the room radiating a sinister quiet. "Hello?" he whispered, his voice cracking. Silence. Then, a faint, almost musical hum began. A sound so low it vibrated his bones rather than his ears. It wasn't menacing, not exactly. More like a lullaby sung by something ancient and utterly alien. He peered over the edge of his bed, his heart hammering. The darkness under his bed seemed deeper tonight, an inky abyss that swallowed the faint light from his nightlight. He strained his eyes, trying to make out any shape. Suddenly, two pinpricks of dull, glowing red light flickered to life in the deepest shadow. They weren't eyes. Not truly. More like distant embers, burning with a cold, malevolent warmth. Then, from the red glow, something began to stir. Not a clear form, but a slow, deliberate gathering of dust. The dust bunnies under his bed, which he had always dismissed as harmless, began to weave. They stretched, elongated, and twisted, guided by an unseen force. They formed a long, thin limb, then another, then a bulbous, misshapen head. It had no skin, no flesh, only a consistently shifting form made entirely of dust, lint, stray threads, dried leaves that had somehow found their way in, even tiny weathered insects. Its form was fluid, barely defined, always in motion like a living cloud of filth. The red embers were its only stable features, peering from within that matted chaos of its head. "You've been very diligent, Leo," a voice rasped. A sound like dry dust sifting through old bones. It came from under the bed, from within the dust itself. Checking, always checking. "You feel me, don't you?" Leo couldn't move, couldn't scream. He was paralyzed by the terror that felt like static electricity crackling through his veins. "You fear what hides in the dark," it continued. its dusty limbs slowly reaching out, a grotesque finger of lint and grime, stretching towards the edge of his bed. But I do not hide, little Leo. I merely wait, and I gather. What? What do you gather? Leo stammered, his voice a barely audible squeak. The small things, the forgotten, the pieces of your worry, your anxiety, your nightmares. Its voice strangely soothing despite the horror. You discard them, cast them aside, push them into the dark beneath your bed. And I collect them. I build myself with them. The dusty finger reached the edge of his mattress, then slowly began to curl up onto the bedsheet. It was surprisingly light, feather soft, yet it left a trail of fine gray powder. But tonight, I am hungry for something more, the creature whispered, the red embers glowing brighter. Your fear, Leo. It's a rich meal, and tonight, I will weave myself something new with it. The dust finger began to pull. It tugged gently at the corner of his sheets, drawing it down ever so slowly, exposing his legs. Leo desperately tried to yank the sheet back, but his limbs wouldn't obey. He was frozen. He was terrified. The hum intensified, wrapping around him like a suffocating shroud. It could feel the cold radiating from beneath the bed, and a chill that seeped into his very bones. The air grew heavy with the scent of old dust and something else, something fetid and ancient. Then he felt it, a cold, soft touch on his exposed ankle. Not a hand, not a claw, but the brushing of countless tiny particles, gently pulling him closer to the edge. He finally found his voice, a raw, piercing scream that tore through the night. Get away from me! The red embers beneath the bed pulsed with satisfaction. Too late, little Leo. You've given me all the material I need. The last thing Leo saw before the darkness under his bed seemed to surge upward and swallow him whole was the outline of the Dust Weaver. Its form solidifying, growing larger, its red eyes glowing with an unholy triumph before it dragged him into its suffocating dusty embrace. The next morning, his mother found his bed perfectly made, as if he had never slept in it. But under the bed, there was not a single speck of dust. It was immaculately clean, the floorboards shining, and Leo was gone.